everybody, and welcome to another episode of Inside Battlefield. My name is Tom, Community Manager for Battlefield, and in today's episode we'll talk about the Arkangel Directive limited time event for Season 5, alongside the design and gameplay of its new game mode, Control. With me today are Afshin and Martin. Guys, welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
How's it going?
Good. All good. All good, thank you.
Excited to be on the podcast?
Yeah,
of course.
Yeah, a bit nervous.
That too.
It's fine.
At least folks can see that you're nervous.
Yeah,
they
exactly.
They can only hear it in your voice.
Exactly. Even worse.
Yeah. So for folks who might not know you, could you start with a little introduction about who you are and what you do at DICE?
Yeah, sure. I'm Afshin Fahlstrom, and I'm a game mode designer here at DICE. Joined in January 2021 as an intern, and got hired in August the same year, and been working with game modes ever since. Was recently came back from parental leave, and been working on this new mode called Control since then.
I'm Martin Kopparhed. I'm a design director on 2042, working with maps and modes. I have a long history with DICE, started originally 20 years ago. So too long story to talk about now.
It's for another podcast.
Yeah, but very recently, actually, at the start of the year, I started working with Afshin and maps and modes on 2042.
Awesome. So a veteran from DICE and someone quite
fresh
recent
blood.
To, fresh blood to DICE, including myself. I guess I've only been here for 3 years, but in EA for 10. But yeah, for DICE, fresh blood. Anyway, it's not about me today. So the Arkangel Directive, to start, the event runs for 2 weeks from July 11 to 25. And as you're used to, you can expect exclusive event-themed weekly rewards and cosmetics to either unlock through gameplay or purchase from the store. And then for the story, Martin, I'll throw it over to you. Can you lead us in?
Yeah, very briefly, Arkangel is a corporation in the 2042 universe that's working for the betterment of humanity on robotics, AI, this kind of stuff. And they have a role to play in the 2042 narrative, and they're going to keep being a player moving forward as well. And Control, ties into you're basically working for them in this game mode.
Yeah.
Have we seen them before in the 2042 narrative?
I'm not sure. I mean, they're being mentioned. There's stuff already you can read about them, but I'm not sure actually how long they've been talked about in Battlefield.
Okay, awesome. So, and as part of the event, you'll play as them in the new mode with in terms of like cosmetics, etc.
Yes, they're one of the factions in the cosmetics. Exactly.
Awesome. And then we have the new limited time mode Control, which, Afshin, you can talk more about. Do you want to start with leading us in and talking more about how the game mode works?
Yeah, sure. So Control is a sandbox mode where you there is total 48 players, so 24 versus 24. Where the goal is to essentially collect telemetry data and map that up to the Arkangel satellite. It's essentially about map control. So take the objectives, control the objectives, defend objectives, and that's how you win the game. We rotate the objectives, so we start with multiple objectives active simultaneously. And then, as the match goes on, we introduce less and less objectives for the players. So eventually, the players will meet and clash in one epic battle in the center of the map.
Is it like large scale or smaller scale?
It's a large scale game mode. Yeah.
And as you mentioned in the name, Control, like it's about control of the objectives.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, and which maps can we play it on?
You will be able to play it on, let me see here now, so I don't say the wrong thing. Orbital, of course, and then we have Valparaiso, and...
trying to not say the developer name.
I mean, I
Come on.
Reclaimed?
Reclaimed.
Yeah. I was thinking about the
dev name.
The dev name.
Which, by the way, happens in like most of the podcasts where at some point somebody like mentions the dev's name.
And then we have a fourth map, but nothing that I can mention here. What it is.
so it's coming on a fourth already existing map during the event.
Okay, TBD on that one. So we'll let folks know later. And in terms of, can you talk a little bit more about what players can expect from the gameplay perspective? Like you already mentioned, like it's large scale, ends in an epic clash, but I think it has vehicles as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of focus around vehicles, and the vehicle management system in this mode is a bit different compared to our other modes like Conquest and Breakthrough. So here in this mode, you actually have to earn certain credits to be able to spawn in as a tank or as a helicopter, Apache or anything like that. And you get these credits or these points by performing well. So doing things like reviving teammates, capturing a objective, or killing the enemy gives the player some sort of points that we call ascension points. And with these ascension points, you can purchase and spawn in these combat vehicles.
Is it the goal for players to work towards to earn the ascension points to get the vehicles, because the vehicles will be very important to win the match, or is it just a side objective?
I mean, absolutely. I think what this does is that vehicles become even more of a valuable resource in Control. Like it's something that you save up to get. Yeah. So you want to really take care of the vehicle. Like repairing becomes even more important. Yep. And it really contributes to this kind of escalation that Afshin mentioned, that people get access to more vehicles because they've saved up ascension points, but we also unlock some vehicle categories towards the middle of the round, right?
So at the start of the match, even if you have enough points, you can't immediately select all vehicles.
Yeah, you can, but we increase the vehicle count.
Yeah. Oh, okay, so you can get more of them.
So you can spawn more of them.
Okay, that's correct. Yeah.
But in the beginning, so as a player, what you would expect in the beginning, it's a lot of infantry gameplay. Yep. You won't see as many combat vehicles on the battlefield. And as the match progresses towards the end, maybe the last 10 or 15 minutes, you will see helicopters, you will see tanks and such. So you will actually feel the escalation. You will feel how the battlefield grows within the session.
More and more chaos.
More and more chaos.
Which we like here at DICE.
Exactly.
Great. And how long do you expect a match to last?
In the play test, it's been around 20 minutes, so we expect somewhere there. But I know also that our internal playtest play very different from the sessions in live. So I know that players are a lot more efficient, that they're much better, so they might be even shorter. But I would say somewhere between 20-25 minutes, I would expect. Similar to a CQ match.
Okay, nice. It's funny you mentioned it, because in our internal playtest, and I believe we talked about this before on like another podcast, but we go in to test very specific things. Yeah. So you can see someone just maybe, I don't know, messing around with this new vehicle or weapon or something, and instead of focusing on the match itself. So it's just depending on who you run into.
Watching some new bush or something.
Like, this new bush, the lighting on this is great. Yeah. Awesome. And is there any more cool details you want to share about the mode itself, or like the gameplay?
I could just mention how the control points work in this mode is that, as Afshin mentioned, you're downloading telemetry, and each of the points has a set amount of telemetry to download, basically. So you want to hold, control that objective, and extract as much telemetry as you can. And the win condition, Afshin, the team that first reaches a certain amount of telemetry?
Yeah, exactly. So each objective has a set amount of points, and when you extract that point, that objective goes inactive. And once all the current objectives goes inactive, we spawn new objectives in new locations, but in lesser amount. Exactly. So we start with 4 objectives, then it goes to 3, and so on.
And they keep moving. Across the map as well.
They change locations, and eventually it will be one location in the middle, somewhere middle of the map, where everyone meets in a big clash. And the one team that gathers 700 points, which is the max points, whichever team that reaches that threshold wins the match.
Okay.
And the final point has more objectives. We often see cool clutch moments where one team is in the lead, and then if you manage to snatch the final objective and hold on to it, you can still turn the tide of the battle, which is really exciting. Something that happens.
How, if you had to explain or compare the mode to some other things we did already, like including Shutdown, like how would you say this mode is like different, and where is the real excitement for you as designers, but maybe also for the players?
So what we wanted to capture with this mode is something that's very much Battlefield. So as Afshin mentioned, medium to large scale, combined arms, sandbox. But we also wanted to have a bit more direction to it, like a bit more of a narrative arc. So you can sense like a start, middle, and end, that the mode kind of grows, escalates, and that you can have some kind of intense finale, basically.
Okay.
So that's what we were trying to get to.
Yeah, essentially a sandbox with more structure in it. So as I see this mode, it's more of a combination of conquest and breakthrough. You start as conquest, and as the match progress, in the end, it will feel a lot like the final objective in a breakthrough match.
Very chaotic.
Very chaotic. A lot of
Intense.
players in one small space, intense, lots of vehicles. So it will feel very different from the beginning and the end.
Awesome. In terms of like tips and gameplay for when players go hands-on, any tips you can share? Like, hey, do this thing or do that thing, or don't do that thing?
So even if you're not super interested in vehicles, you can use the ascension points to get a ranger via the call-in menu. Another tip I would say is like use your ascension points to spawn in a vehicle and give to your team. So
if you don't want to use it yourself. Yeah.
Exactly.
So the overarching narrative here is just get those vehicles in.
Yeah, they're gonna be a really important resource, of course, to turn the tide. What more?
Yeah, and you could also save those ascension points towards the end.
Exactly.
And make a big push together with the team with a lot of vehicles to actually grab and control the final objective, because the final objective essentially has unlimited points. So if you control and hold the final objective long enough, you will eventually win.
Up to 700 points.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's really like King of the Hill kind of gameplay in the final objective.
Another thing, cool effect, I think, of the ascension points. I like to play vehicles in Conquest, but it's often it's hard to get access to a tank because everyone's trying to get it. Here, since you also need to have the points, whenever I have the points, when I've saved up, I feel, at least in our playtest, like I can more often get access to a tank or another vehicle when I want, because it's not just a free-for-all, right? So as a vehicle player, I think you get a bit more of a chance to get to play with vehicles at least some time during a round of control.
If you perform well.
Yeah, exactly. yeah.
Sorry, the ascension points, are those specific to players or a squad?
No, those are individual points for the player.
So every player has
their own points, correct.
Is there like a max number of vehicles we can expect on the map? What is the most other chaotic moment you can think of?
It can be pretty intense. I'm not exactly sure.
I mean, you don't have to
amount, but it's
name
about
this amount, but it can get pretty.
It can be very intense, yeah, for sure. I think actually, to be honest, like this is one of our more vehicle-focused modes. So I think this will even feel more intense than Conquest, for example.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. And really, of course, the interplay between, you really get those infantry versus vehicle clashes. Of course, the numbers are different on Gen 4 and Gen 5 as for how many vehicles we have, but you're going to see the...
They're actually not.
They aren't. All right. Yeah, sorry. Cut that out. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, yeah. So, we're really pushing the amount of vehicles in this mode.
Yeah, we are pushing the performance, of course. But yeah, I think it's about total, you can expect about 40 vehicles in total.
Ooh.
Yeah,
Okay.
and that's quite a lot.
That is a lot. So
on some maps.
On some maps. And I think I have another question about like the map layouts after this, but I think to just summarize for vehicle players, you've both mentioned that this will be a very fun mode. If you're infantry, obviously it's going to be fun to try and take down those vehicles if that's something you enjoy.
For sure.
But I don't believe, and please do correct me if I'm wrong, but for our other seasonal events, I don't think we really had a mode that was this vehicle focused. Maybe in the Battle of Nordvik, I think we had 1 week where it was Breakthrough Chaos.
Yeah,
that had some vehicles, but this seems to be the most fun and chaotic vehicle mode we have created so far.
Yeah, I think so, and that's also one of the reasons why we have a lower player count. Less players, but the same amount of vehicles as we have in Breakthrough and in Conquest, which means that accessibility to vehicles is much higher. So we expect that players will feel that accessibility to vehicles is a lot better in this mode.
Which is also something we heard feedback on from players. So do you feel this in this game mode it's also a test to see how that just feels about giving more access freely to players, or is it just a specific decisions for this mode?
Both. I mean, we always try to learn things from our themed events and see what sticks and what we can adjust for the next one. But yeah, also has a counterpoint to Shutdown, which was, of course, or is small scale and infantry focus. We wanted like the opposite end of the spectrum for this themed event.
Cool. And then just back to the map layouts that I mentioned earlier. Is there anything you can share about the map layouts? Is it the exact same layout players are used to from, for example, Conquest or Breakthrough, or do we have separate map layouts for Control?
I would say it's very similar to some Conquest layouts. We've been using that as a foundation and did the necessary adjustments from that. The objective locations, however, is somewhat unique for this this mode.
Exactly, and I think similar to Breakthrough, a cool thing about that, since the objectives move across the map, so to speak, is that you get this kind of journey across the map, and you get to fight in places that maybe you wouldn't focus on so much in a Conquest round. Yeah,
exactly, so, which is cool. It brings us to other places on the maps we usually maybe do not go unless...
Or never seen,
or you haven't seen.
Exactly, and of course we try to pick the most interesting, best location for that sort of King of the Hill finale, as Afshin mentioned.
And some areas will, of course, play better with infantry, and some areas will play better with combat vehicles, ground vehicles, for example.
Okay. So I think that is a nice overview of Control so far. Obviously, you have to play it.
Yeah, for sure.
So I believe, when this podcast releases, and this is always fine guesswork for me when we're recording them, it will be available for play the following day. So if you're listening to this now, the plan is that you'll be able to play it tomorrow. So my future self, and I guess future Afshin and Martin, are very excited about that. that you can all play it. Is there any final comments you have about Control that you want to share before we start talking about some of the design and like how we created the mode?
Can't think of anything.
The answer can be no.
Yeah, okay, it can be. Okay,
covered a lot.
I think we've covered most of it. No, I'm just excited to give this to the player, and I hope they will enjoy it. I think this mode has a new touch, and it's unique for a battlefield mode, but it's also familiar. So players will feel like, this is a typical battlefield mode. That is what we hope at least.
Yeah, and even though we talk a lot about vehicles here, I think and hope that it's a mode that offers something for all BF players. Of course, there's a lot of room for like reviving and supporting your team in all other ways here as well. So,
like infantry gameplay, while there is a lot of focus on vehicles, infantry gameplay is still just as important.
Yeah,
especially if you want to take down those vehicles, you will need that infantry anyway, as well, to back you up.
And just to mention, like if you take down vehicles, you will get extra ascension points for it, and you can use that to counter.
Do you expect to see more engineers in Control? That's okay. So that's always a fun question. What are your expectations for what you think people will play?
Well, myself, I play a lot of Blasco actually, because she has two good things. It's one, she has the spawn beacon where you can place and spawn wherever you like, and your team as well, which is really, really effective in this mode. Because essentially it's about holding and controlling objectives. But then she also has these gadgets where she, like the EMP grenade and stuff, and the C5 to blow up vehicles, which is super effective. So I think we will see a lot of Blasco, maybe, and maybe a lot of engineers overall. That is what I expect, actually.
Agreed. Yeah.
Okay. Especially towards the end, when you start to see more vehicles, I think people might switch from like assault to medic support, and then go to engineer classes.
And I guess something that's just fun in general, and both of you already touched upon a little bit earlier, I believe. Like we, as a team, we try new things with these modes, limited time modes, meaning we also expect, can I put it this way, weird shit to happen, that maybe like players try new stuff. Yeah. It's a different way of playing, so who knows what kind of shenanigans still.
I'm excited to see.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. Are you ready to talk a little bit about the story and creation, about how we ended up designing Control, like more of a background info?
Sure.
Well, essentially, it always starts with directions and player journeys that Martin essentially creates. Maybe exactly. You want to start?
Yeah, me and other directors early on. I mean, when we start planning for a season, basically think about themes. Of course, what's this season going to be focused on? What kind of gameplay do we want to push? So, like, any weapons and vehicles and what we release, and maps, of course, kind of play well together. So for this season, we had a big combined arms focus, as I mentioned. So yeah, as I said before, we tried to combine like the sandbox of Battlefield with a bit more direction, basically. And it's like you create a framework for the thing that we want, should be this and it should not be that. But then in between that, there's a lot of room for creativity and interpretation that basically then the map pod, game modes pod, gets to work with to define what it should be.
Do you work, but I assume you work together with the levels pod as well? Maps? Levels?
Yeah, of course. We have a close cooperation, so to say. But yeah, so Martin and the directors, they create these user stories, which are essentially goals for the mode, but they're open for interpretation. It gives me freedom and creativity to actually translate this into my own thing. Sorry, what was the question about again?
I'm technically I didn't ask a question.
You didn't,
or did I? Like I asked, like, are you ready to talk about like the creation and background of like how we came about Control, and then we actually started talking about that very well. So I guess, Martin, you explained it very well already, like how we start. You and the other directors / designers come up with like the user stories and
the framework,
framework / goals, and then the game mode team takes it from there and starts building upon those. So I guess the fun question is then always, so you came up with like the framework. When you come up with the framework, is what you then came up with, Afshin, is it very different than, for example, what you originally envisioned, Martin? Or do you not think, or do you not necessarily want to think outside the framework yet because you want the designers?
I mean, it is, when giving direction, you're not supposed to say how the experts are going to build the thing. It's more, what it should be. On a higher level. Of course, it's almost impossible to not maybe have some, like, maybe it could be this in my head. Okay. So the pod comes back with a proposal. Okay, this is the design that we think will achieve these goals. And then, if we think that seems like it will achieve the goals, then we green light it basically and start production on it. But it's it's not going to be exactly what I maybe envisioned, but that's part of the fun. To see.
That's what I was
like,
going to
say. Okay, if I give these goals, how can those be reached?
And the design really, it changes throughout the whole process. Like the initial design and the first proposal is very different from the end result. And that is game dev.
Which is
in a nutshell,
another fun
it's
question.
very organic. It changes a lot, which makes this job really fun and interesting as well.
Can you share maybe some of the iterations that it went through, like something that changed completely versus how we first envisioned it to work, which is, I think, is always a fun one. If you remember.
Yeah, I can mention one thing. Trying to. We had earlier on. We had that the objectives were randomized from pre-selections. Like there were a few different places the objectives could be in, but we felt that didn't really add anything.
It's more controlled.
Yeah, now it's like these are this is where the 4 objectives are in the first phase, and these are where the 3 ones are in the next. But earlier on it was random, but it was like players didn't really notice, but it still created some kind of noise, I guess, that you can really pick up on. Plus, it's of course makes more time consuming for us to develop and test.
We had a few playtests with it, and while we felt like the switch of location felt good, we didn't feel that the randomization gave anything really. But what it did instead was that it made it difficult for the level designers to actually make it work well, because if you look at it in the end, we expect players to have a lot of assumption points. We see that they will spawn in a lot of vehicles, and if the final objective somehow ends up inside a bunker, that's not a good experience, right? So we want to have some sort of control where the objectives spawns, as we felt like, let's remove the randomization and predetermine the locations instead for the objectives, and that was a lot easier for the level designers to design the layouts, and it made the whole experience a lot better in the end.
Yeah, what more? I mean, of course, a lot of iteration on these layouts that you mentioned, starting with like designers making a 2D top-down layout. This is where we think interesting locations could be, and then you playtest that. We want to, of course, get always as quickly as possible to something, a playtestable prototype, so we can start feeling how it plays and feedbacking on that and iterating on it.
How soon after you come up with like the initial design can you actually get a mode working and start to playtest it? How long is that process, or what goes into that process?
Yeah, it all starts with like putting everything down on paper, really, bullet points, so to say. I get the framework from Martin and the directors. With that, I try to think about some game mode ideas. I take inspirations from competitors and game modes from other games, and I try to boil that down and make it fit within the framework and the Battlefield world, and come up with essentially like 2 to 3 ideas, concept, and I throw that idea around the team to see like, what do you think about this? Do you see any problems with that? And usually there are some questions and issues with the initial design, and you kind of iterate that until I felt like I'm happy with these proposals. And then you take those proposals and pitch it to a larger group with directors, Martin, DDs, development directors, producers, product owners and such. And you try to get that pitch greenlit. And as soon as you get it greenlit and approved, you essentially just break this whole idea concept down into tasks and start planning ahead of what needs to be done.
In reality, you cannot always do all of the cool stuff, but it's more like a lot of that work happens on paper, maybe even in your head. But eventually, like how do you start building it then? For example, we have the idea of the mode. You know, it's we know we want to do it. How do you go from like translating that mode on, I guess on paper or GDocs or whatever, PowerPoint, like into, hey, now we have something working in the game that we can actually play? Like how do you make that switch?
Yeah, but as soon as you have a plan that you feel confident with and that this is something we can pull off, then you start prototyping. You get into the engine as soon as possible and try to make the simplest version of that concept as possible. So you don't look at UI stuff and stuff like that. And everything doesn't need to work 100% perfect. The most important thing is to get the prototype up and running as soon as possible and playtest and verify the design. So yeah, essentially it's just get into the engine, start prototyping, and the process usually takes can take everything from 2 to 4 weeks, something like that, until we have a first playable. And usually after the first playable, we sit down and talk about the experience and see if we have something going on.
As if it feels good.
If it feels good, or if we see some potential in this idea, or if it's total crap, because that can happen. Right? Sometimes a design can sound and feel very good on paper, but once you test it, it can feel really the opposite.
I think that's always the most interesting one to hear, like the paper designs that sound awesome.
Yeah, and everyone is convinced.
And then you go hands on, it's like, wait a minute.
You want to find that out as early as possible, of course, so you can course correct or cut problematic bits.
Yeah.
Another thing about prototyping is we start by sort of copying other things, right? So can take, for example, the conquest objective and duplicate that and then start modifying it to how it should work for control instead. So we get like a head start. So of course, the more different a mode is, if it's something completely different, like shutdown is more different, I would say, with the lands.
Yep.
So that most likely had a longer sort of start stretch to get playable.
Yeah. Do you feel I guess I'm slightly backtracking here. For shutdown, we had a very, like the lands was like very unique. We have ascension points here, and I'm sorry, but I forgot to name the satellite.
Oh, the transmitters.
The transmitters, yeah. Like, do you feel like in this mode it's as unique as what we did with the lands, or it's just an additive here to the mode?
I would say it's not as unique as the lands. It's essentially it is the conquest objective with modifications. So it's not working entirely as the flags in conquest, but it has similarities.
Okay.
So we used that as a foundation and modified it, while the lands was a complete new tech.
Yeah, and then another thing, I mean, we also wanted it to be easy to understand how to play, and just sort of controlling an objective is something players know. So we don't really have to teach them something new there. But then yes, there are tweaks sort of for differences in how you need to think about controlling that objective. The meta around it sort of. For example, an interesting thing about control versus conquest is that there are no tickets, so kills aren't a means to winning. You can't win directly by just killing the enemy team. Like, it's a means to an end to take control of the objectives.
Yep.
So that,
which gives the point.
Yeah. So that of course changes a bit how you think about playing the mode and what kind of tactics and strategies that become best.
Okay. And in terms of like the design personally for each of you, what is the most fun part of like this whole process for you? Very easy question.
I think the whole process is fun, just to see how the experience, the mode coming along. I think the prototype phase is exciting. That's when you see the idea, the concept become reality, and you test it and verify it, and then from there it really starts the fun. Like, you play test, you iterate, you gather the feedback, you iterate, you play test again, and you just see how the mode develops throughout the process, and that is really the fun part. And then of course when you reach your goal in the end and you feel that we've done something good, that's the best.
Exactly. Like coming up with a change, like, okay, we think this change, if we make this, and then in the next play test we think this thing is going to work better or play better. Like, that's exciting to test out, and it's a very quick kind of loop of iteration where you quite frequently get to see the result of those changes that you planned out before. And then of course, like Afshin said, now we get to see what players think of it very soon. And live service is different from working on like a not live service game, because you have these shorter iterations and kind of more frequent touch points with the players, which is quite exciting.
The next thing is never too far away, basically.
Yeah.
It's always super fast moving for us internally, and it's quite an amazing ride so far.
Yeah.
And just we're on season 5 now, which is to me personally very exciting, and also
Absolutely.
like, where did time go? What?
It's crazy.
So great. I think that was from my perspective also a very interesting overview of what goes on behind the scenes to get a mode into the player's hands, and what are some of the areas we look at. Is there anything else you want to mention there that just comes to mind, or?
I don't think so. No.
No, can't think of anything more.
Okay. Do we want to eat some cookies?
Yes. I mean, yeah.
Let's see what we have today. Oh, we have macaroons.
Oh, is it different cookies every session?
It is.
Oh, nice.
And often we have a little bit of like the lore of the cookie.
Oh, really?
But I don't know anything about macaroons. So there's,
Yeah,
unless you do, then there's
from previous episodes, I was thinking maybe it's some kind of Swedish fika that Afshin and I should know something about. No, I don't really know anything about
so
this.
here you go. Take a cookie.
Thank you very much.
I'll take the green one.
This one looks like a hamburger.
Yeah, it does. Maybe it tastes like one as well.
Let's see. If it tastes like a hamburger, it's a weird cookie, but we'll see. It does not taste like a hamburger. Is that like pistachio?
Yeah, it was exactly what I expected, actually.
You picked well.
Yeah.
I love pistachio.
What about that one?
Chocolate.
Chocolate cookie.
I don't know what this is.
Not sure what the center tastes like.
Vanilla?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
It was good. Thank you.
Very good.
I mean, we have more. Maybe you want how do we feel about the cookie? I think we usually rate them. Like how many stars? 4 out of 5 or whatever.
I don't usually eat cookies, but I have 4. Yeah, so it's a good 4. Strong 4, I think.
Yeah, 3+ for me.
It's a bit disappointed.
Mixed feelings.
No, it's very good. Maybe
maybe the pistachio is better for him.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, there are 2 pistachios left, so I've got my eye on one of them. So, folks, that is all we have for you today. So, to summarize, the Arkangel Directive runs from July 11th to 25th, and it comes with a new limited time game mode, Control, which we talked about in detail today. There's new event themed rewards to earn or available on the store, just like you're used to. So we hope you'll have fun with the new mode. I want to thank Afshin and Martin for being here today.
Thank you.
And
thank you.
I want to give you the opportunity as well to say any final thoughts to the players that are listening.
You want to start, Martin?
Well, really hope you enjoy Control and see you on the battlefield.
Yeah, really hope you will enjoy Control, and I hope that you will experience something new but familiar and have a good time this coming 2 weeks. See you on the battlefield. I will play for sure.
Awesome. Good. So, folks, get in touch with us at #Inside Battlefield on socials. I went double there. Or at podcast@battlefield.com. And from all of us here at our Battlefield studios, stay classy and PTFO.
Yeah, PTFO.
PTFO.
Always PTFO.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.